Hey guys, it's Lindsay here with Little Helpful Files. So I want to continue on in the budgeting little by little series that I was doing, and I am kind of taking this again through a Christian perspective, but trying to just give you guys some easy videos to reference. Sometimes we just got to take it back to the basics. Sometimes we need the reminders. And sometimes, you guys might be hearing this for the first time. This may be totally new. You might be beginners. But either way, I think that it's very important to kind of just have this stuff laid out. And when we find ourselves in those places where we may be stuck or not sure what to do, I'm hoping that this can be a good reference for you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So what I'm talking about is the budget. We are going to focus on the budget itself. And this may be something that a lot of you don't like. I personally have always loved kind of like the math and, budgeting side of things. I used to do it more so for my business, and then I really started taking over more in our finances, like our personal finances at home. The budget is so crucial because it is the foundation of how you know where your money is going, of how you can get control of the situation, how you can assess and adjust, whether you are either needing to trim out certain things that you're spending money on, where you could free up money for other things like debt or savings, or you can find whether you actually don't have enough income coming in and maybe need to take on a side hustle or another job to help with that. So that's one of the reasons why the budget is so important. And I personally am a pen and paper kind of girl, so I gotta write it out. I know a lot of you guys probably do digital, but for me personally, I do prefer to just kind of take it old school. So I do have a sheet I'm going to provide below for you guys. You can get that in the Etsy shop. I, of course, am doing this with the faith focused. So I think having a Bible verse with that is key. I'm going to have one in there where you can see a Bible verse already on the sheet. And then I also have a version of it where you can actually write in your own, because I think that would be really cool. You could change it up for each paycheck, each month, however you want to do it. All right, so there's many different verses in the Bible that talk about, things with budgeting and kind of planning. Not all of them have explicitly to do with that, right? Sometimes the context means other things, but I am going to read a verse, again, knowing kind of what this would mean to the people back in the time when the Bible was written. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. So a lot of the people, right, were shepherds. They were taking care of their flocks. So I look at this the same way within our finances today. We have to pay careful attention to know what we are stewarding over. We have to give attention to be able to know what we have coming in, what expenses are going out. I think this is the most fundamental part of it. We can't continue to improve our financial situation if we don't fully know or understand. Now, this is where my husband and I were a couple years back, right? So we, one year, had a very eye-opening moment because we continued to feel like we needed to make more money and that was going to solve our problems. I don't know if you guys have been there, maybe you're going through that, have ever felt that. We did not see that change though occur when we started making more money. We still were living paycheck to paycheck. We still had a ton of debt. So the increased income did not solve the problem, okay? Because fundamentally, we had really bad habits that we needed to address within our finances. So that was the key thing within it. We had to take a look and really assess what we were doing. And when we started looking at it, we took all of our expenses, we printed all of our cards, credit cards, all that. It was eye-opening. We had $10,000 of expenses that we couldn't even really account for or understand or know what they were. We just assumed it was gonna be all these big purchases. At the time we owned our house. So we were just convinced that that must have been why, we were in the hole so much. Well, it was all of the little things, guys. Let me tell you, it was all of those little impromptu coffees or food, oh, we're out, let me just grab this. It was all of these things that they just added up. They added up over the year to $10,000. I was shocked. This was, like I said, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. So this is when I really became passionate. I was like, all right, I need a new solution. Came across Dave Ramsey, started looking into kind of what all of this whole like cash envelope budgeting and all that entailed. So I do feel that budgeting is important because you're kind of taking every single thing about it and you are giving it a place, right? And you're also aware, you're aware of where your money is going. And it's not to say that you can't go get coffee or can't go get food. It's just that you want to do it within your means. Because I think we can tell ourselves, oh, it's just $5 or it's just $15. Oh, no big deal. But if you do that every day, every week, for the whole year, like it really does make a huge impact. And so that's why I think it's important. Now for me, what we've been doing, I don't typically do the budget by paycheck. We do get about 2 paychecks per month from my husband's salary. And then mine is like kind of random. So usually mine's more on a monthly basis, and I like to see the big picture. So personally, I like to do the monthly budgeting. Now, I think that if you struggle with, like, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, I do think budgeting by paycheck helps. I think it's an easier way to do it. However, initially, right, if this is like your first time that you're looking into this and this is like brand new to you, I would say you want to look at your budget for the month as a whole, because I think that's going to help you then to know how to plan out the budget by paycheck. So you kind of want to see like, what are your fixed expenses? What are your variable expenses? What does your debt look like? And are you saving, or can you put anything towards saving? When we went through our budget, there were a lot of things that we decided to cut out. There were a lot of things that we realized we were spending money on. I mean, food alone for us was really crazy, and not just like groceries, but like eating out. Like we were spending more, like double eating out as we were on groceries. It was really bad. And again, since, the past like 3 years, I mean, since we've been born again and been walking with Jesus, I mean, we have a lot of things that we cut out that we used to do and that we used to, I would say have more of an addiction to, that we don't do anymore. Like one of them would be alcohol. Like we used to drink alcohol a lot. We don't drink alcohol at all anymore. I used to shop like crazy. Like I was a shopaholic. I mean, I was a buyer for a living. I owned a business, like a boutique. So shopping has always been kind of my way to cope and handle stress or anxiety or things. So I've been able to kind of get a hold on that a little bit more. I still do shop. I still do like to get different things, but I'm much more diligent in it. I budget for it. So again, I think that's what it is. The budget is something that can free you in making those decisions. It frees you up. It allows you to navigate. It allows you to understand, okay, what can I spend my money on? How much do I have for this category? Realistically, is it in the budget or not? So the first thing I definitely recommend is like paring back anything that you can cut out, anything you can trim out, and making sure that you are putting as much of the money towards your debt as possible, because I do think paying off the debt is key. I personally used kind of like a snowball avalanche blend. We were just trying really hard to get out of debt. So what we did was focused on the cards that we could pay off. It wasn't necessarily that they were the lowest amount, because I wanted to pay off the ones that also had high interest. So what we would do is actually utilize balance transfers. The balance transfers at 0% for, let's say, 12 or 18 months would allow us to free up some time to pay off the ones that we needed to focus on the most. So for a year or two, that was literally what I did. That was how I kind of went back and forth with the different cards, just utilizing the deals and paying off as much of the debt as possible. Now, I do think it's also important to save. That's why I'm very passionate about it. That can look however you want. Like I know a lot of people love the sinking funds and savings challenges. I also know a lot of people like the high yield savings account. We do both. So I think it's good to not have all of your eggs in one basket. So having kind of a portfolio of things is important. So we have savings that go towards like 401k and IRA. We have the high yield savings account, which is more of an automatic draft that comes out of the paycheck. And then I also take an allotted amount to put towards like savings challenges and sinking funds, which we'll get into that more later. But for right now, what I'm focused on is just making sure that you guys understand the importance of the budget, understand, it may feel very challenging at first or difficult, like you may be overwhelmed by it, or it may be something that you really don't want or like to do. But it is again, foundation, the first step in the process. So if you are brand new to this, you would really want to take all of your expenses. I would take maybe 1 or 2 months worth, because you want to get like an average and a full picture idea of what you normally spend. And be honest, be real with yourself. Like, don't give yourself some crazy low budget or goal for groceries if you know that, like, if you usually spend 1,000, don't try to then spend 500. Like, that's really drastic, and you're gonna set yourself up for failure, and you're gonna get discouraged really quickly. So you want it to be realistic, and again, if you want to pare that back, do it a little bit, but see where else you could cut out. See what are other things or categories that you could remove. If there's any subscriptions, if there's things like cable, or just anything that you see in the budget that you don't need. And then I would say, definitely paring back on the eating out or shopping or spending as much as possible, especially if you are in the mindset of like trying to pay off debt and really wanting to like reset your whole budget. As you get to a point where, that is working and you have that money set aside, you can reassess and look at those categories later on. But when you're in kind of that mindset and mode to get out of the debt that you're in, that's where most of your finances, are going to have to go, aside from bills and all that. It's also good to write down dates when all these payments come out. So you're going to want to look, from the first to the last date of the month and see where does everything normally fall. If you are really heavy in payments at like the beginning of the month, try to see if you can push some of those dates, maybe for credit cards or debt payments, a little bit later in the month to balance it out better, because I know that can feel really overwhelming. Something else that we did with our budget, again, this might not be something initially, this could be later on. I didn't even really think about, like, I wasn't intentionally doing this when I was looking at it. This just kind of happened because I like to over plan and over budget. So I was actually budgeting for like 2 mortgage or 2 rent payments, not even thinking about it. So what I would do is I would budget for the one that came out on the first, but then I always knew I'd have the next month. So I would always budget that in at the end. So it actually kind of ended up helping in the long run, right? Because it ended up being like a little cushion or like a carryover. Now, a lot of the times the paycheck that we would need for like that amount would be the one that came in the month prior. So I kind of had to have that fund in there, but it has just allowed us to have, it naturally has allowed us to have more of a cushion and a carryover balance and amount. So with the zero-based budgeting, you're not spending every single dollar necessarily, you're accounting for every single dollar, right? So when you're going through your budget, you're looking at your income, then all of your expenses, your debt, your savings, and making sure that it adds up to 0. So our checking account doesn't drain down to 0. We have a chunk of money that is like a carryover, or like I said, a cushion kind of that's in there. So don't be confused if you hear a zero-based budgeting. It doesn't mean that you're just spending every single dollar before the next month or before the next paycheck comes in. I will be going into more of the cash envelopes and then savings challenges, sinking funds, and all that in different videos. I really wanted to use this series to kind of go through each of them to really give you guys some good direction, especially, again, if this is your first time kind of going through this. My main piece of advice, the best thing I could say, is look to the Lord for guidance. Seek God in everything that you are doing. He absolutely helped me to navigate through so much of this, and he would kind of lay on some convictions of my heart of things that I needed to really reevaluate or reassess. And God has just been so faithful through this. So I encourage you to take it to the Lord. If you are at a place where you're like, I have no idea what to do with my finances, maybe this is it. If you've been doing this for a while and you're kind of hitting a wall or you're struggling, take it to the Lord and ask him, to help you through, to search what are you missing? What do you need to do? again, sometimes it's going back to the basics, go back to the budget, go back to all the expenses, lay it out, kind of put everything down on paper and see where your weak spots are. See where you are having trouble gaining control, or maybe areas where you haven't stayed on budget like you want, right? Because that's another thing that sometimes I think we can give ourselves like these goals and ideas, but if we're never hitting them from month to month, then it's not really setting us up for the best process. It's not going to work, because if we can't ever achieve it, it's not helping us. So I hope that this video helps you guys. Hope that as you're going through this, like I said, you just continue to seek the Lord's guidance. And I'm here to kind of answer any questions that I can. I don't know everything. I am just, like I said, a mom that was passionate about trying to help our family get out of debt and wanting to encourage you guys and point you, in the directions in understanding this stuff more, and really just being able to take hold of your financial peace and security. That's the main thing for me that I'm looking for. I want to be able to set up our future and our children to where we can, pay for the things that we need, we can give back, and we can give to different charities and organizations, and we can just steward these finances in the way that the Lord calls us. So I thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and may God continue to bless you.